Scarlett Blade. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Silent Night, Memoirs of a Royal Guard, Chapter 17. And before we start, I'd like to say, unfortunately, only one chapter will be uploaded today, as today is my birthday, and I have a few things that the family wants me to treat me to, so I don't have much time. Anyways, days off are fun, but there just isn't anything like putting on your armor and getting back to work. Over the years, I've heard some ponies complaining about their jobs, and I truly pitied them. I considered mine a privilege. I was a house guard, after all, and a young one. My career was well ahead of many other ponies. It may be arrogant to say, but I was proud of myself and of the unit I was a part of. That unit pride, however, also made my life difficult for a couple of weeks. In that prior period of time, I learned that Iridescence may not have loved the job as much as I did. Lately, it seemed she was more interested in being Princess Luna's friend than her guard. Her professionalism on shift had slipped at a few inappropriate times. Unfortunately, it didn't go without notice, and both Sergeant Windchaser and Captain Armor had spoken to her. It seemed that on this day a new issue would be added to the mix. She arrived for her shift half an hour late. "You're relieved," she said, getting into her place beside me. I nodded and stepped forward to head back to our room. As I did so, the captain came around to the corner. He looked surprised to see me. "Silent Night," he started. "Don't you ever get tired of working?" "Never, Captain," I said warmly. Haven't you been off shift for a while now?" I nodded. "Yes, Captain." Shining Armor looked suspicious and then fixed on me dead in the eyes and asked, "Anything to report?" I stared back while standing at attention. An emotion, and he would know. "Nothing of consequence, sir," I said, and then added, "though I can do an exhaustive written report in this case if you prefer." The captain looked at Iridescence, then at me. He shook his head. "No, that won't be necessary. Carry on." And with that he made his way down the hall to continue his rounds. When I was certain he was out of earshot, I breathed a sigh of relief. That was as close as I've ever gotten to lying. I truly believe this wasn't of consequence. Iridescence wouldn't let it happen again. I briefly looked at her. She seemed shocked. I guess we were all acting a little abnormal lately. I had been working on speaking more and trying to be a more outgoing pony. It put some ponies off. I was trying to be a bit more well-rounded. Iridescence had been, well, I'm not even sure what. The look I gave her said, "Don't put me in this position again." Quickly she nodded, and with a light shrug I left her to her duty. That day I headed to the small tavern near the barracks. I needed a drink. The air was chilly and there was snow on the ground. I never quite understood what the purpose of it was or why the weather ponies still worked during the winter. It made more sense to me if it was cold, so you wouldn't want water falling from the sky. But what did I know? I kept a brisk pace as I headed to Spearhead Tavern, where there would undoubtedly be a big fire and warm food. The Spearhead Tavern was a Royal Guard favorite. The owner, old Silverwind, had been a guard for years. When he got too old to do his duty, he opened the tavern and made it Royal Guard friendly. Eventually it was exclusive to us, for the most part. I settled on a stool by the bar and set down some bits. "Cider, please." I'd never sat at the bar before. Usually it was at a table, catching a meal outside the chow hall. Tonight felt like a sit-at-the-bar kind of night. Just like it was a something-other-than-water night. "Rough day?" a familiar voice asked from behind. I turned to see Shining Armor there. I immediately stood up to attention, and he lightly pushed me back on the stool. I'm not on duty, Silent Night, and neither are you. Switch it off." "Switch it off?" I eased back onto the stool and said, "Perhaps a little, Captain." I tilted my head and referenced regulations. Officers and enlisted ponies didn't typically mix. Mr. Armor? Shining Armor laughed and sat on the stool next to me. Shining Armor is fine. Just shining armor when we're in here and our helmets are off, okay? I nodded. Yes, sir. He lightly opened his mouth as I corrected, yes. Rough day, then? He repeated. Was this a test to see if I had lied? Did he know? I looked at him and I saw fatigue under his eyes. It wasn't just like that. He looked worse for wear. Similar to when I had first met him right after the Nightmare Moon incident. Setting some bits on the bar, I motioned to him. Cider for the shining armor, please. I told the tender. Looking back at him, I deflected. Not as rough as yours. Is there something wrong? He snorted and accepted the cider. You're too observant. Something has been off between Cadence and I. I can't put my hoof on it, but she's a different lately. Things have been a little stressful. Cadence, his unicorn bride-to-be, was one of the prettiest, sweetest ponies I had met. We had not spent much time together, but she was often around the palace as she was Princess Celestia's adopted niece. It seemed implausible that she was causing the captain grief. Iridescence, too, I said without really thinking it through. The captain's brow went up. Oh, you two are together? He asked me directly. Stupid, honest mouth. Not like you and Miss Cadence, no. That wasn't a lie. The relationship was far more serious and tangible. We're close, though. I know when things are off. Partners, well, friends are like that. She's my best friend. I noticed, too. With Iridescence, she hasn't been herself as of late. He said, I think Cadence may just have wedding jitters, but I feel something in the air. I think Princess Celestia feels it, too. That was disturbing. When Princess Celestia worried about something, it meant a call for action was soon to follow. And we'll hand her whatever it is. Have no doubt about that. I offered confidently, how about you? Do you have the jitters as well? Shining grinned a bit, obviously glad to change the subject. Not in the least. I wanted to marry Cadence since our school days. I'm actually shocked it took so long to get settled in, but the situation like ours takes time. Taking a sip of my cider, I asked curiously, your situation? Marrying royalty, he said plainly without a hint of ego. It was just fact. There are protocols, of course. Cadence is Princess Celestia's niece, after all. She is destined to hold a noble title in some form of fashion. She may even rule, for all I know. Makes sense, I agreed. She is a unicorn noble in multiple rights, is she not? Her family line goes back to that of Princess Platinum? The captain's brow lifted. She is. How do you know that, though? Perhaps I may have crossed the line, but I wasn't certain who I would be protecting when I started in the academy. I simply narrowed the list down and did all my research to ensure I'd get a good fit. Princess Luna, of course, was a total surprise. Shining laughed. Your research includes looking back through years of my fiancé's family tree? Of course. Know your very important pony as best you can. It helps you anticipate how they'll act and make life easier for every pony. Princess Luna loves to read, as an example. I've made it a point to learn all the bookstores, libraries, and newsstands in Canterlot so I would know where to look if she disappeared unattended. I appreciate that level of dedication, Silent Knight, but you are seriously need a hobby. That made me laugh a bit. I've been goofing off more than I ever have in my entire life thanks to our mentoring. I play board games and help my cousin with his wacky experiments. Shining Armor looked at me quite serious and said, well, it's good to know I've been such a bad influence on you. My stomach dropped and I said, Captain, I'm sorry. He lifted a hoof. Joking. I drank my cider and peered at him over the rim. Oh, well, good then. Listen, he said, leaning closer. I didn't come to discuss business, but I am worried. I'm going to rely on you to keep your eyes and ears open. If something out of the ordinary happens, you let me know, even if it seems insignificant. Understood? Crystal clear. Good, Stallion, he said. I started to stand with him, but he put a hoof on my shoulder while adding, Thanks for the cider. We should do it again sometime. Stallion's night out, sir? I asked. He chuckled and headed for the door. Sounds good. I turned back to the bar and drained my cider. If Shining Armor was worried, then I was too. Tapping the bar with a hoof, I ordered another mug. I had musing to do. You lied for me. I can't believe you lied for me, Iridescent said softly when I returned the next morning to relieve her. Shaking my head, I said no. I said nothing of consequence occurred, but would write a detailed report if requested. Nothing of consequence did occur, but I know my partner wouldn't show up late without a good reason, and she certainly wouldn't make a habit of it. We stood together in silence per the usual. I had arrived 15 minutes early for shift change. You took a risk for me, she whispered. Yes. I promise I won't do it again. She started and then sheepishly toed the floor. My relationship with the princess has been clouding my judgment. I was starting to think I could get away with things, at least until you had put your neck out for me. I don't want to turn into the type of pony you have to do that for. With a slight nod, I said, Please, don't. But every pony makes mistakes. Don't worry about it. She promised earnestly again, I won't. Under my helmet, I gave her a slight smile and said, You're relieved. Thank you, she whispered sweetly before heading home. The universe was back in order as it seemed. Thanks, Celestia, for that. If we could all just make it at hoofful of weeks more without any weirdness, we'd be able to sit back, celebrate Hearthswarming Eve, and then enjoy the Royal Canterlot wedding. Well then, I hope you guys have had a wunderbar day.